And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast and a very special guest on today's episode. We mentioned this at the top of the show and have him here now, fresh off a great almost 30-year career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Scout Mark Gorscak is our guest today. We're so excited to get to talk with him. Mark, how you doing?
I'm happy, to tell you the truth, but I wake up happy.
Well, we're very glad to hear that. And again, congrats on your great career with the
Absolutely.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Just the graduation. That's all it is.
Right. I know I want to ask you about your next football plans as well, but I know most fans, Steeler fans know you by name, by face, and also you're the man that was running the NFL Combine 40-yard dash, and they're going to miss you too over there in Indy for sure. But Mark, I want to just ask you, since you talked about, this is a graduation, why now in terms of, stepping down from your role with the Pittsburgh Steelers as an area scout, why now was the time to do that?
Well, I just thought after 28 years and 16 years of coaching before that, I've been involved in football for 44 years. So it reaches a point in time where I'd like to do some other things. I'm looking for new challenges and creativity. I'm really seeking creativity right now. And, you want to be able to do things at a lesser pace too, because of the fact that I've been involved in football. I never had to fall off except for the 1 year I was out because I was in arena football in 1987 while I was general manager of the Pittsburgh Gladiators years ago in the Civic Arena of all places. But it's just time.
Dave, you can go ahead.
Yeah. First and foremost, we'd like to apologize for stalking you so much over the last several years, but it's kind of what we do in tracking all these scouts as they go across the various pro days specifically, and obviously you've been involved with the combine as well. So let me pick it up with the combine in particular there. Tell the people how that all came about initially, and a lot of us we've gotten used. That you are part of that process. Steeler fans in particular look forward to seeing you every year at that. What are the prospects of maybe you continuing that moving forward, at the combine in some way, shape, or form?
I asked Jeff Foster about that, and I told him I'd like to do it for another couple of years. And he said, because I'm not a team affiliate, I have to be voted in by the board of trustees. And Kevin Colbert's still on there. I told Kevin that, and Kevin goes, "Oh, you'll get my vote." And I jokingly said to Jeff, I said, if you need me to interview and send you a resume, I think it's But it's one of those things where I got roped into by a longtime scout named C.O. Mercado. And I did it. I got talked into doing it at the old Cactus Bowl, a D2 game where we did everything to these young men. We worked them out. We did a whole combine. They practiced 3 times a day too. And he saw me, and the guy previous to me retired. He goes, "You're my 40 starter, boy." I said, "No, I'm not, CO." "Oh yeah, boy." And he's an old Louisiana guy from Shreveport, living down in Texas, And I said, "No." Well, he called up Kevin. Okay. And he told Kevin I was going to be the starter. And Kevin calls me in his office. And he said, "You got to do it." I go, "Why?" He goes, "You're going to know everything about those young men because you're going to be on that field. You're going to talk to all those group leaders. You'll find out all the dirt, who these young men are, who's the good people, who the bad people are, how they behave, and all that stuff is valuable information." So I reluctantly said, "Yeah." And then the very first year I'm down there, and something you grow into like anything. And all of a sudden this guy comes up. He goes, "I'm so-and-so NFL Network." So, "Yeah, good, Mark Gorscak, Pittsburgh Steelers." I start walking away. He goes, "Hey, wait a minute. You need to put this microphone on." I said, "What?" "Put this microphone on." And I said, "You're kidding me." He said, "No, you got to have a mic on." And then next thing I know, I got camera crews around me. I get in my stance that everyone makes fun of because they said I look like a tailback in Nebraska eye set. And I got a camera down by my feet. I'm like looking around, go, "Hey, could you move over a little bit? I'm trying to work here," and all that stuff. And then I just grew into it, and now between me, 49ers scout, Justin Shabat, and another young man from Cardinals, we run that whole field. We set the times, we get together, then I have a good relationship with NFL Network, and we set the times, so we take care of those young men so they get ample amount of time to loosen up.
Do you like do you like the switch because here's one of the concerns that I have with the combine, and we track everything through that.
Mhm.
You know, we have spreadsheets and you know, track that annually and have for years. And obviously, since they have shifted things like the 3-cone and the short shuttle, and really the start of the event overall daily to later in the day, you see less of these kids doing the 3 cones and the short shuttles at the combine. And yeah, and I know most of them end up doing them at the pro day anyway, but it's good to have that baseline in Indy between all those guys. And I wonder now, what do you think is going to happen with the combine moving forward? Are we going to see these kids do less and less things at the combine moving forward? In other words, nobody running a 3-cone, nobody running a short shuttle, and it just basically be, you know, the physical and the 40-yard dash.
Well, the trend has started a couple years ago, started with the long shuttle, which was just a grueling shuttle, was a 60-yard shuttle back and forth. It was like running, baseline in basketball. And we did away with that. But you would like to see everybody do everything at the combine because historically, that's where all the data generates because it's the same playing surface.
Right.
It's the same surface. It's everything can be generated from here. But things are getting out of the cart. Started out with the fast quarterbacks. I won't mention names, refusing to run the 40. Hey, watch the tape. I'm fast. Yeah, you're right. And there are a couple of those guys. Now the trend right now is the 3-cone. Nobody wants to run the 3-cone. And some of these guys don't run in the pro day. But, with the event of NIL, okay, that's going to change a lot. They may ask to get paid. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. It's just something I foresee in the future that NIL is going to play a role in everything you do. I think after you get out of your college, they're going to want to get paid because they are professionals. They were professionals in college now. They want to get paid to go ahead and work out. Or it may be my tape's good enough. Watch the tape. There's going to be certain trends going to happen because I think NIL, and it's going to affect college football. It's going to affect pro football. All I can say is, tell me the rules of the game. I'll win at the game.
Mark, for those that don't know you, longtime area scout, can you just give me, a season by season breakdown of what your responsibilities were, what you did about this time of year, starting a new draft cycle into the fall, winter, and of course, as you get into actual, draft season, which is all the time for you guys, but in terms of the media kind of based draft season, what are your responsibilities? Like, for example, this time a year ago, how are you preparing for the next class? What do you do in the fall? What do you do in the pre-draft process? Just kind of give an overview of your responsibilities.
Well, let me take you back to the fall process. When we're in training camp and we're going through our schedules and trying to have some separation so we don't show up at the same school at the same time. So we see them at different time periods. Okay, because that way you can tell the development. If you can go early, middle, and late, that's even the best way because some people peak late, some people peak early, and they may have a law because of an injury or maybe a personal issue happened to them. Maybe someone passed away that's in their family. Maybe they were sick and all that stuff. But fall camp, what we do is we rate our own players to help give the coaches a perspective, our opinion. We set our schedules, and then we go out. We try to go out to our fall training camps for the colleges just because the volume of prospects you have at major colleges are just, it's immense. And to be able to go ahead and talk to coaches, the trainer, academics, strength coaches, and you may have, like at Alabama, you may have 20 guys you're talking about. It's tedious process, so it's better to go in training camp and try to get some of your major schools knocked out in that way. Then once the season starts to roll, you got to go ahead and start someplace. I usually start my C schools, they're free agent schools, and they usually only have a couple of people, do them early. I can always check on them later. And then jump into the college tape as the major colleges get 3 or 4 games in. But you're on the road from, I watch our Steelers game on Sunday, and I usually have to get up at 5 o'clock and catch a 7 o'clock flight out of Pittsburgh. I try to hit 4 or 5 schools up, come home on Friday, or stay out and do a game. And so you're on the road a lot. And I don't drink at every college bar like my college buddies thought back in the day, 1995 when I started. You have time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You're consumed by this from the time you get up to the time you get to bed. It's Groundhog's Day. And you do that, from August 4th to the middle of November, and you're writing reports all the time. I try to crush as much as I can during the week. So if I'm home on the weekend to watch us play, and my girlfriend's in town, I want to enjoy her, and I got to take a break, rest my mind.
Sure.
Then after you get that little lull, okay, you'll be doing some cross checks, either by positions or different areas or different schools, which is easier to do because you're home in December. And then you got January is going to be all-star games, okay? Then you got the combine February, March Madness, as some people call it, for all the pro days. April's your draft meetings. You do the draft, you got a little bit of law, you got rookie mini camp. Okay, now you got OTAs going on right now. And this is kind of like the law right now. OTAs are easy. You watch the people. Okay, you may have a position, you may not, but you get a chance to notice everybody. The free agents that you signed, that were pro for free agents, and also the college free agents, as well as your draft choices, and watch them compete. And then you have a little lull after that during July, where you get to chill out, go on vacation, do different things. But you're going to spend, like I said to somebody in a podcast or one of the articles that were written about me, 28 years of doing this, 9 years in Marriott Hotel.
Yeah, you can probably give the best hotel reviews of anybody, I think, that I know right now. I was going to ask you, you mentioned it because there is so much information and prospects and risers and, guys underclassmen that may declare if they have a good year. How do you start that? Is that Blesto that helps kind of give you a groundwork of who to look for and some of the prospects? I mean, just where do you begin in terms of a list of names and guys to start evaluating and talking about?
Well, you hit it on the head, Blesto, and there's also National Scouting. Okay.
Right.
All the teams are involved in those two organizations except for 4. And we all share that information. Blesto shares with their teams, National shares with them. We go over it. And all it is guidelines. These are young scouts. We have a young scout, okay, that's designated as our Blesto rep, and he's starting out to go ahead and create a list. And it's an oxymoron because you got a young guy breaking in, and I was that young guy at one time in 1995. I was the Blesto rep on the South Coast for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Did I know what I was doing? No, you grow into it. Okay, so your list, people you think are draftable, you may think is a free agent, they may be a lot better than that. But you don't have a baseline until down the road as you build that, as you get a couple years into it. But they give you the guidelines, and then we have some analytical people in our office. We'll go ahead and, Toast and Will, they'll go ahead and look statistically at players, and particularly juniors, and create our own junior list. Okay, just to look at also, just to be on the safe side. And if you go like Alabama's really good. It's full disclosure down there. Sure. You want to talk about a redshirt sophomore, they're going to talk about a redshirt sophomore. You ask, they'll tell you everything. Because they want their players to come out early. If they're good enough to be drafted in those first 3 rounds, that's what they want. Because that word's going to spread it. You can come out early, you're going to get more players like that. But that's basically how the list gets started. Plus, if you're a KG vet and you notice somebody that's a reject on a list, but the coach at the school recommending, and you watch him, you go, this guy ain't no reject. He's a player.
Mark, your process, obviously you go to so many pro days during the pro day season and all. Walk us, and Alex and I are all about, we love process. We love looking at that kind of stuff and taking our listeners and our readers into that. What would your process look like, say, right ahead of and on the way to each pro day trip? Obviously, these kids aren't foreign to you. You know so much about them. You how much do you watch more tape of those kids on the plane and in the hotel? Just kind of take us through the process, say the day on the way to each pro day.
No, I don't watch any more tape because chances are it's a big school I'm going to. I probably saw 6, 7 games. I probably saw the best competition. I probably saw them early, middle, late. I have enough tape in, but I want to refamiliarize myself with them. Okay. I want to reread my reports. I want to go over the character. So in case I have some questions, they're pinpoint questions. When I go into even a second school visit or, going to a pro day, I'm not asking for the full Monty and ask them everything again. Hey man, I may have a certain question. hey, how does he really learn? I noticed this on tape. Pinpointed questions, particularly to the people you build relationships with. I always tell people anybody can learn how to grade tape. You really can. Anybody can. But how much information, what's the relationship you could build to get good quality information from the coaches, from the support staff? You got to build that trust. And part about building trust is about giving back to them too. What can you do to help them out? They may need a favor too. They may need, hey man, anybody at this school, I want to move on from here. I'm trying to rise up. Okay. Hey, I want to become a scout. I have approximately, last time I counted 22 young men and women in the National Football League that I helped, and they got jobs. I gave them guidance, and they're scouts in the league. And I don't know how many I have in college football. A Pitt recruiter told me today, you can go say, man, I don't want to blow smoke up you, but if it was for you being real to me when I was at this D3 school, I'd probably still be at this 3D school instead of at Pitt right now. But you have to build relationships. How do you do it? I'm a note writer. My notes notoriously hanging on people's bulletin boards. Okay. I do it because I'm honest, sincere about it. I want to thank people. I want to go ahead. If you get a new job, I'm writing your congratulation note because I'm honest, sincere about it. I do a lot. I've been writing notes since 1986. And that was before I was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I had an old coach who used to write notes, and he instilled that belief in me. And I do it today yet. And you'd be amazed how many people really like that. I got a note from the head coach of South Carolina, gradually my retirement, and just what I meant to him, building that relationship. I keep those type of notes, man. It's pretty cool putting your scrapbook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you got the head coach of University of South Carolina. You got oh God, I don't know how many notes from people. I have a relationship with Coach Belichick, and I wrote him a couple of times. He drafted an old football player of mine from Weber State, and Tal Papua, and Tal never made it. He went to Cleveland. Okay, then Bill got whacked there, and then Tal became an opera singer in New York City, a tenor. Okay, and there was a thing in the Weber State Alumni magazine about Tal Papua, football player to opera. Now, I sent it to Coach Belichick, and he wrote me a handwritten note back. And he said, I always knew Tal had talent, but I thought it was football talent. And I have that in my scrapbook. When you just don't know what the power of a note is to build those relationships. But going back to the pro day, I just want to get familiar with them, and have pinpointed questions that I may need answered. Then I just want to watch the workout. I want to study them. I want to see how well they follow directions. They got strange coaches, put them through some of the strange drills too, because some of these coaches put these guys through drills. I don't know what they're football related or not, but it's what they do. But you learned a lot about the young men.
Mark, did you have, obviously you scouted, learned to scout all positions over time and all like that. I know even today, and I've watched my share of film over the years and all like that. I love to watch edge rushers and tight ends. Do you have a favorite position that you enjoyed scouting the most?
I can't say that because you get so used to scouting everybody. So I haven't really thought in that fashion. You just know you got 20 players. Sometimes you have 14 guys on defense. Okay. They only play with 11. You got to notice rotation, all that stuff. So you're not paying attention at, oh, this is my favorite. What's real cool, you notice, is when you go, man, I got 2 guys on defense at this small school. This is going to be easy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
2 guys, man, I crank through that tape like it's nothing. And I don't think they're draftable. I think they're good free agents, whatever. Chances are I'll know the coach and I'll say, hey, can you get these 2 young men to come in here now so I don't have to watch practice? I can go ahead and move on because I got 20 reports to do from last night yet, But, I just don't think in those terms.
Gotcha. Alex?
Mark, I was going to ask you, and you mentioned this earlier, and I've always read this in your bio in the media guide, and I've always wanted to know, you mentioned in 1987, you spent a year as the Pittsburgh Gladiators GM. How did that happen? Because you were a pretty young guy back then. I want to know the story of how that occurred, and did that experience help you as a scout down the road?
I completely BS my way into it, be real truthful.
Well, tell me.
I was at Weber State. Okay, it's a 1AA school in Ogden, Utah. I got roped into that by Mike Price, who later went to Washington State and won 2 Rose Bowls, one with Ryan Leaf. Okay, and I'm a graduate assistant there. You know, I'm trying to get a full-time job. I'm living off $249 a month. You know, and it was 1987, and I saw a blurb in Sporting News 2 years earlier about arena football. At that time period, there was no internet. Okay, the Sporting News was the Bible because it covered all the sports. You know, all seasons, even in the off seasons, they had something. It was a 2-inch blurb. I cut it, saved it. Well, I'm reading Sporting News in the GA office, and I saw arena football going to be started. They did a test game, okay, this summer. Jim Foster created it. And he said, you know, he's going to start building staffs and all that stuff. So I went ahead, and he was living in Chicago, and that time period, 411 was information on a rotary dial. You guys probably don't remember that.
Oh
Dave
yeah,
does. I don't.
yeah, I'm 55. So
Okay.
born
I
in
dialed
68.
411, and the operators, I was at Weber State, so I was burning up their phone lines looking for work, you know. And I dialed 411. I said, Jim Foster, Chicago. And she goes, well, I got about 10 of them. I'll take all 10. Wrote them all down. First guy I called was Jim Foster, ran a football. And he picked up, and I told him that I want to get involved. I'm at Weber State right now. And at that time period, I was a graduate assistant, and I start running all the trips for the travel team and all that stuff. Mike trusted me, and he liked me better than an assistant AD at that time. And I was doing all kind of administration. I was coaching tight ends for him too, and I was doing football marketing. So I told him my background and all that stuff, and he goes, well, we're going to put a franchise tomorrow in Denver. If you can make it to Denver, since you're in Utah, I'll interview you. I might just hire you. So I'm sitting in the office, kind of dejected because, you know, I'm from Pittsburgh. My dad's still working. My mom's a waitress. I ain't got no money, man. And so Mike Price, the head coach, comes by, and he used to call me Gorbachev instead of Gorscak, because Gorbachev was the president of Russia during that time period. He goes, Gorbachev, what's going on? I said, got a job interview. He goes, great. Where? Denver tomorrow for arena football. Never heard of it. Are you going? I said, Mike, it's a 10-hour drive. It's 6 o'clock right now. You know, by the time I leave and get there, it's going to be 7 o'clock in the morning. I got to drive all night. My car ain't going to make it. I got to beat up Volkswagen Rabbit. We used to call it the Silver Surfer. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to get there. So ask your parents, give you money. Wire you money. I said, my dad's a steel worker. First of all, he wouldn't know how to do it. You know, he's a U.S. steel worker, you know, and my mom's a waitress. She wouldn't know how to do it either, and they ain't got money. And he goes, wait right here. He came back half hour later. He says, there's a ticket waiting for you, Delta. Here's $50. Go get that job. And I flew out on the 6 o'clock flight, took a cab to the old Nichols Arena. They announced the Denver Dynamite team. He interviewed me, and he goes, well, I like you. I think you're going to be one of my general managers. You got to go to Wheaton on this date. And that's how I got it. Completely BS my way through it. You know?
Wow. That's amazing.
And by happenstance, you work for a good, you know, you're working for a good man that happened to come through and ask you, you know, what are you doing? You tell him you got a job interview, and he went ahead and got you a ticket. You know, Mike Price means a lot to me. You know, he did a lot for my career. He's done a lot for a lot of people's careers. And because of him and me in a good line of BS and 411 information.
How about that? What an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. I want to go back to the Steelers. As Dave noted, we love tracking this stuff. Did they change your territory this year? You were Southern Scout for a long time. Felt like you doing more Midwest to replace
Dan. To the Midwest, and all the young scouts out there looked at me and they said, you ever work out here before? I said, yeah. They go, when? When I gave Tom Brady that free agent grade. They go, you gave Tom Brady a free agent grade? Yeah, so did everybody else except for the Patriots. They took him in the 6th round. They go, well, that was a long time ago. Yeah, that was the last time I was out here. And then another young scout goes, well, we're going to Michigan State tomorrow. You going to Michigan State? Yeah, I'm going to Michigan State too, because it was during training camp and all that stuff. They go, who was head coach last time you were at Michigan State? I said, Nick Saban.
They have no idea Nick Saban was even the head coach ever at Michigan State.
No, and then Ryan Kelly was the head coach at Grand Valley State. Never did I ever think he would make it to LSU, Notre Dame, Cincinnati, Central Michigan in my entire life after meeting him at Grand Valley State. But this just shows you a thin snapshot of somebody you just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you as well, Omar Khan, GM for the final year there, what were the differences in terms of the scouting process between how Omar Khan ran things and how Kevin Colbert ran things? I know Khan said it was about 85% the same. I'd be curious to know what that 15% difference was in terms of the approach, analytics, what kind of changed this past cycle?
He just streamlined it, basically. And he added more analytics. Analytics I like analytics, but I like the nuggets of analytics.
Mm-hmm.
And he added a lot of different things, so you knew what ideal size and speed for the last 10 years were for every position. You knew when you went into stats if they had ideal production, or just average production or below average production. Just clues and keys of that fashion. But he just streamlined the approach where we didn't spend as much time. Kevin was very meticulous and had a lot of checks, double checks, triple checks, and all that stuff. And Omar eliminated that down to check and double check. But very similar in nature. And Omar did a nice job of moderating everything and making them a Steeler. Okay. And that's what it all is about blending all the opinions, taking subjectivity, making them into a Steeler, okay, and that becomes objective. And I said it before. When you take subjectivity and make it to objectivity, it's programmed to fail too. But we've had a pretty good batting average here in my 28 years. Now he's trending in the right direction. He did a super job this year. Time will tell. What the future lies. All I know is what we did this year, and my big thing is I'm just trying to make the day a good yesterday. I ain't worried about tomorrow. You know what I mean?
I got you. Speaking of analytics, and because we're on the outside and aren't able to visit these schools and get the all 22 early and all, like, we have to kind of reverse engineer it. Then a lot of times we start with the analytics part of it, then kind of narrow it down as to guys over the years that we think the Steelers fit that kind of mold, and then get in more into the tape come draft season and all like that, just because of the way the process is on the outside here. But talk a little bit about we've over the years can kind of quickly identify, it used to be the spark score, and then now it's more on the outside, this relative athletic score that a lot of people depend on. And obviously it's related to length of measurements and obviously times and all like that. But can you talk a little bit about the improvement of analytics? And specifically, I mean, analytically there is a Steelers type player, right?
I think there's ideal players by position, okay, that you can go ahead and quantify by numbers. But when you start talking about an ideal Steeler player, there's so much other makeup involved in that. And you're talking about the mental, you're talking about the toughness and grit, you're talking about for the love of the game. Kevin always used to say that we make all our mistakes on hearts and smarts. They weren't smart enough or didn't have the heart. Or a combination of both. And how can you qualify that by analytics? I know people that have low Wonderlic tests, and they're pretty smart about football. And that's the misnomer about it. Okay. I hate when people go, well, he's a rep learner. Well, that's all we do is teach reps. Okay. We take it in the classroom, we show it on tape, we go outside, we do individuals. Okay. We do unit work, we do 9-on-7 and 7-on-7, and we do it as a team. It's a lot of reps, isn't it? And then we're going to go ahead and watch that tape again and break it down again. So we're all rep learners, in some form, some fashion. So it's tough to quantify certain things. And Kevin put it real simple: hearts and smarts. And that's where we make our mistakes on. It's easy to say analytics plays a role, but like I said, I like analytics, but I just think you got to use the right nuggets. if you get too much information, I think you become paralyzed with it. And Joe Madden thought that when his last job, he was one of the first baseball manager when he was in Tampa. He embraced it and used it, but they had small departments. It was a little bit bigger in Chicago. And he said when he went to the Angels, they were in every staff meeting. They dressed out. They sat on the bench. They talked to the players. They had, they were in the dressing room. They had their own locker next to the coaches, and it was just too overwhelming. He thought it might have been one of his downfalls there. So, but I like it. I think our analytic guy Tosin and Will do a great job, and you just got to use what you want to use. And Mike has a lot of statistics he uses, a lot of analytics. But he still watches the tape religiously. He knows things that analytics don't tell you. He knows where the running back's lined up at in relationship to quarterback, whether he's in a pistol set sidecar, if he's one step back in the sidecar. He knows who that runner is. Does he have multiple role player? Okay, can he play wide receiver and running back? And Mike still watches the tape, and he's really good at it. You learn a lot of football just hanging out. Mike watches tape in the scouting room, so we always tell the young scouts and interns, man, listen to what Mike watch what he's watching, because you learn a lot, and a Grizzly vet like me learns a lot from him also.
The big running joke we've had for several years, especially towards the end of Kevin Colbert's tenure there, was that Kevin Colbert basically come draft day had about 25 names on an index card, and you could probably pull the draft class out of those 25 names. Now we have fun with that, but just over the years we've been able to if we had to choose 50 guys ahead of every draft, we could probably pretty come close to getting the whole draft class out of that. I guess where I'm going with this, do you feel like maybe the Steelers have become too predictable when it comes to the pre-draft process? And I guess B, do they care?
I don't think we're predictable at all, and I know we don't care. Kevin used to always use a developmental formula, and we still do it today, where it's a predictor of where you should pick your first round, second round, third round, based upon what you saw. Not what the media thinks, not what the other teams and all that stuff. It's how you like them. And it holds true in the first 3 rounds. Then it starts to go ahead and get the people you like in the third, people you like in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. Everyone else kind of likes those same people then, but it's how you like them. You don't care what anybody likes. You don't care what all the, Todd McShay and all those other guys think. What do they know? Todd McShay looks miserable every time you see him on TV, for God's sakes. He looks like he's not having fun, and football's a fun job, as you guys know.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Alex.
I was going to ask you just a couple more questions, Mark, and thank you again for your time. Is there one, I know you've scouted so many players over the years, but one Steeler that the story that sticks out to you the most, somebody that you watched and you scouted and you said, this guy needs to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, that this team took, somebody you were banging the table for? Is there any name that comes to mind?
See, that's a misnomer about this. When the Steeler ways, being a Steeler is really easy. It's all about the team. It's not about your ego.
Sure.
For me to say I banged my hand and stood on a table and stuff, that's not. We don't do that either. When it's your turn to get in the box, you say your opinion. Okay, when you're out of the box, it's the next person's. Okay, you may disagree, but you don't have to be disagreeable. There's people we pick. I didn't like them as a player, but once they become a Pittsburgh Steeler, they're family. I like them. So it's all about the team. And that's Mr. Rooney, when he was alive, he used to always address the group and say that all the time. Right before the draft, we had all departments and all that stuff in the football facility. And he used to say that to us. He used to say, hey, you may disagree with who we pick, but once we draft them, they're family. We like them. And he was so right, because they are family. So it's all about the team. It's not about you. It's not about the ego. And that's what Steeler means to me.
Sure.
Like I said, but then I also told you got to admit your screw ups. Tom Brady's mine.
Again, you weren't alone in that one for sure, but I will always think about T. Martin being part of that class, that quarterback group
Yeah.
ahead of Tom Brady. But
we gave him, we drafted him, became a heck of a coach because he's coaching
Yeah.
Detroit, you know.
right,
He's been around the block. His son's a football player. So we saw something in T.
right, for sure, for sure. My last question, then I'll let Dave finish things out. As you mentioned, kind of the Pittsburgh way. I think what's so unique about the Steelers is how many guys in that front office have ties to Pittsburgh. You, of course, from Pittsburgh, Kevin Colbert, Dan Colbert, the late Ron Hughes, Mark Bruner, Chidi Iwoma, all those guys playing for Pittsburgh. Did that give you guys a leg up, having such a sense of community and knowing about the city and the history of the team? Do you feel like that gave you an advantage as a scouting staff and a front office to find the next great Steeler, being able to lean upon that history that you guys basically all grew up within?
I can't speak for those people, but all I know is for myself. Once I start working for the Pittsburgh Steelers, well, my dad said, when I told him I was interviewing, he goes, "You got to get that job." Yeah, no kidding, Dad. You know? And you don't want to have you don't want to let down the city. You know, it's kind of like if someone goes, "Are you going to leave Pittsburgh?" I said, "No, I'm going to stay here. I'm established here. Everybody knows me here. You know, I made a reputation here. I go all the dive bars. I'm Steeler Mark because there was a guy from Cleveland. He's Cleveland Mark. So you keep the bar tabs different. You know what I mean,
It's important. Yeah.
but you don't want to have a sense of letting the city down, the people down, because you meet people. So you're out there. You know, when you're working for the Steelers and you have a bad game, well, you know, you're a target for people because they want to rant, they want to vent because they care so much. They have an opinion. So you don't want to let these people down in the draft, in a game, or anything like that. And you have to be respectful and let them vent. You know what I mean? You know, you got to be able, you know, just listen. You know, you may not like it, but is it going to help you by telling the guy off, telling him, you know, you're wrong and all that stuff? It's like, hey, you may be right. Yeah, that's a good opinion, you know, but you know, people care. There's other places that you know. There's teams that you can be in the airport and they wear their swag, okay, in the airport. No one's asking them a thing. If I got a Pittsburgh Steelers shirt on or anything Pittsburgh, there's people come up to you. Are you from Pittsburgh? You know, so I try not to wear Steeler gear because people want to talk to you.
Right.
You know, so you got to, you know.
You wouldn't be able to hide from us. We'd be able to pick you.
Yeah, I know. You guys pulling me across the country. I get it. But you know, other teams, man, I feel bad for some of those teams. They walk in the airport, ain't nobody talking to them. You know, when I had my Steelers stuff on, everybody was talking to me. I felt bad for them. No one cared about them. And then it happens, you know, and you know, there's certain teams, you know, the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Raiders, those are the old traditional teams from the 70s. And everybody knew those teams. You know, now it's kind of like, you know, Jacksonville got to play overseas, for God's sakes, you know. You know, and you start looking at some of these other teams that don't win, and you go, God, we're their fan base, okay? Let's face it, there's certain groups, there's certain areas we go into, and we take over the stadium. You know, when was the last time Atlanta came to Pittsburgh and took over the stadium?
Right.
Never.
You know, this year we took over the stadium down here. You know, so you got to look at things like that. This is a special, special place. You don't want to let anybody down.
To close you out here, Mark, how would you, in you know, a couple of sentences, sum up your time, 28 years, nearly 30 years in the NFL with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Oh God.
And you know, how will people remember? You know, what do you hope people say about Mark Gorscak 30 years from now?
I just hope they knew that I was a good person. I gave back. That's what I'm hoping, and I have. You know, I just, all I know is the only reason why I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers was someone helped me, and they always told me to give back. Every time I got a job or advanced in this from high school coaching to Division III, 1AA, arena football, Pittsburgh Steelers, whatever, someone helped me. Someone gave to me, and I always feel I got to give back. And that's all I want to be remembered as, someone who gives back and someone who represents this organization the right way.
No, fantastic.
Making me tear up a little bit.
Mark, we appreciate your time so much. Tremendous insight. Congrats on a fantastic Pittsburgh career. I know you said graduating, not retiring, still a lot more, I'm sure, for you to do, but cannot thank you enough for being so honest and earnest and forthright about your time in Pittsburgh. So thank you so much.
Hey, no problem. Like I said, you got to give back. You people are important too, because you're a mouthpiece for these fans. You know, number of traffic you come through your website and all that stuff, and the hits is amazing for yourself. So you guys are doing a good job too, Reppin.
Well, that
Thank
means
you
a
so
lot coming from you for sure. And we have enjoyed following your career in Pittsburgh and look forward to what's next for you as well too.
Appreciate you, man.